It's no secret that former Fox News host and potential future Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is not only unqualified for the position, but also has been credibly accused of sexual misconduct. What people may not know is that his own mother sent him an email telling him that he is an abuser of women. Yikes. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, a copy of a very brutal email that Pete Hegseth's own mother sent to him directly has been leaked to the American people, adding more embarrassment and shame to this very despicable, very unqualified man. The New York Times published the email, text of the email that Pete Hegseth's mother sent him. Penelope Hegseth sent an email to her son in 2018 as he was in the middle of a divorce from his wife, Samantha. The following is the text of an email that Penelope Hegseth sent to her son, Pete Hegseth, on April 30th, 2018. One sentence was redacted by the New York Times for privacy reasons. Son, I've tried to keep quiet about your character and behavior, but after listening to the way you made Samantha feel today, I cannot stay silent. And as a woman and your mother, I feel I must speak out. You are an abuser of women. I'll say that again. You are an abuser of women. That's the ugly truth, and I have no respect for any man that belittles, lies, cheats, sleeps around, and uses women for his own power and ego. You are that man, and have been for years. And as your mother, it pains me and embarrasses me to say that, but it is the sad, sad truth. I'm not a saint, far from it, so don't throw that in my face. But your abuse over the years to women, dishonesty, sleeping around, betrayal, debasing, belittling, needs to be called out. Sam is a good mother and a good person under the circumstances that you created, and I know deep down you know that. For you to try to label her as unstable for your own advantage is despicable and abusive. Is there any sense of decency left in you? She did not ask for or deserve any of what has come to her by your hand. Neither did Meredith. I know you think this is one big competition and that we've taken her side. Bunk. We're on the side of good, and that's not you. Go ahead and call me self-righteous. I don't care. Don't you dare run to her and cry foul that we shared with us. That's what babies do. It's time for someone, I wish it was a strong man, to stand up to your abusive behavior and call it out, especially against women. We still love you, but we are broken by your behavior and lack of character. I don't want to write emails like this and never thought I would. It damages our relationship further. If it damages our relationship further, then so be it. But I will at least have said my piece. And then there was a part that was redacted. And yes, we're praying for you. And you don't deserve to know how we're praying, so skip the snarky reply. That's funny. I don't want an answer to this. I don't want to debate with you. You twist and abuse everything I say anyway. But on behalf of all the women, and I know it's many, that you have abused in some way, I say, get some help and take an honest look at yourself, Mom. Wow. So that is profoundly embarrassing to a man who, again, has already been credibly accused of sexual misconduct, and who has been dealing with the reputational consequences of that in the sense that that might tank his Senate confirmation. And between that and his lack of qualifications, it probably should. Of course, I am doubtful that it will. And the reason I'm doubtful that it will is because Brett Kavanaugh, current Supreme Court Justice, who was nominated by Trump, he was also credibly accused of sexual misconduct. And despite the fact that there were hundreds, perhaps thousands, of qualified conservative judges that Trump could have appointed to the high court, he doubled down on Kavanaugh anyway. They brought in Dr. Christina Blasey Ford, the person who was credibly accused, or rather the person who made the credible accusation. She gave testimony in front of the United States Senate, and because it was televised, the American people. And it was harrowing and gut-wrenching. And so many Republican senators said, oh, Dr. Ford, I feel so bad for you. The empathy, wow, the bravery. They gave all of the platitudes and all of the niceties. And then they voted for him anyway. They voted for Kavanaugh anyway. They could have gone to Trump and said, listen, you know, we don't know if this is real or not. This is a credible accusation. She's made pretty convincing testimony, but you know what? It hasn't been proven in a court of law. But you know what? Let's not even bother with this. Judge Kavanaugh can still have his career. It's not like he's being deprived of his liberty or any sort of constitutional right. He doesn't have the right to sit on the United States Supreme Court. Let's go with a different conservative judge. But instead, to own the libs, they doubled down on Kavanaugh anyway. And now Kavanaugh is sitting on the Supreme Court of the United States. And so if that were to happen 6 years ago, 2018, why the hell should any of us believe that what's going on with Pete Hegseth, or even this devastating letter from his own mother, why should we believe that 6 years later, the own the libs mentality of the Republican Party is so diluted that they would say, no, we can't do Hegseth. Maybe I'm wrong. It's possible I'm wrong. It's possible that this would be enough to say, oh, God, let's get somebody else instead, somebody who's qualified and is not, credibly accused of sexual misconduct and is not the subject or recipient of a letter from his own mother referring to him as an abuser of women. Maybe. On the other hand, then you have MAGA conservative commentators like Megyn Kelly, who is supposedly a principled conservative, who has criticized Donald Trump and MAGA in the past, but now she's going full bore, all in. This is what she had to say. In case you missed it, Pete Hegseth's mom sent him a "you are behaving very badly" email during his divorce. She's a good mom. And the New York Times is all in on it. Next year, we'll hear from his aunt, who accused him of being late in sending us thank you cards after Christmas 6 years ago. I just read you the damn email. It was a smidge more than "you're behaving very badly." She called him repeatedly an abuser of women. An abuser of women. And she expounded as to why she referred to him as such. She didn't say, hey, listen, I think you're going too hard on Samantha. Ease up a bit. That should not disqualify a person. Being a bit petulant in a divorce, in a contentious divorce, should not disqualify you from being Secretary of Defense or anything else. But that's not what his mother said. Read the email, Megyn. Read the email. I mean, just here's the thing that frustrates me so much about this is I'm just imagining if the shoe were on the other foot, if this had been Lloyd Austin's the current Secretary of Defense, if this had been an email from Lloyd Austin's mother to him, would Megyn Kelly and other MAGA Republicans defending Hegseth say the same thing? No, they would be taking this very seriously. As a matter of fact, Megyn Kelly is taking very seriously accusations made against former, well, he's still the current second gentleman, Vice President Harris's husband, about him potentially slapping an ex-girlfriend 6 years ago. That's an allegation, it's an accusation made, and Megyn Kelly was all over it. She demanded accountability. Where are the investigations into this? Why aren't people asking Vice President Harris and her husband about these accusations? Never mind the fact that he was not running for office. He was not running for office. You can believe the accuser. You can write stories about this. But she wanted to elevate an accusation made against Doug Emhoff. I just blanked on his name. Doug Emhoff, the second gentleman, who is simply married to the candidate. Now, is that fair game? Sure, of course it's fair game, and you're free to talk about it, but see the disparate standard? So Pete Hegseth is actually the one who would hold the office. He's the one who's being nominated for the office. He has to be confirmed by the Senate to get the office. He is the quote-unquote candidate here. And you don't give a damn. Not only do you not give a damn, you downplay this email, knowing full well that if the shoe were on the other foot, you would be all over it and say, hell no, get this man away from the Senate, get this man away from the Pentagon. He doesn't deserve the position. But because it's a Trump appointee, because it's a Republican, because it's a former Fox News host, just as Megyn Kelly is a former Fox News host, the moral standards change. And that's the frustrating thing. It's like, be consistent. The only difference, in my opinion, well, there are a couple of differences. One was investigated by law enforcement. We have additional corroborating evidence, like this letter, about Pete Hegseth's terrible past with women. But again, one is the candidate, Hegseth, and the other, Doug Emhoff, was just merely married to the candidate. So there's no substantive difference here which would justify putting more scrutiny on Emhoff and Harris, who, even if the allegation was true, had nothing to do with this, because this was before she and Emhoff, she didn't even say 6 years ago, it was 2012, 12 years ago, before she and Emhoff even met. The frustrating thing is the grading of Republicans on a curve, even and perhaps especially when there is more reason to take the Republican person more seriously, or the claims against the Republican person more seriously. So really frustrating stuff from Megyn Kelly. Also point out again, going back to it, that Pete Hegseth is unqualified for the role. Not only do you have former generals, people who've commanded hundreds, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, saying that Hegseth doesn't have the experience for this, you also have Senator Tammy Duckworth talking about this. She did some interviews about this within the past week. Rolling Stone has a good write-up here. Senator Duckworth, Hegseth is inordinately unqualified to be Secretary of Defense. She called Trump's nominee a pretty low-ranking guy in the military, adding he never had a command position, he never even commanded a company. Tammy Duckworth, a retired Army National Guard lieutenant colonel, pulled no punches when discussing Fox News commentator Pete Hegseth, Donald Trump's pick to be the leader of the Department of Defense. The Democratic senator sounded off on Hegseth's lack of experience, calling him a pretty low-ranking guy when he was in the military. Hegseth served as an infantry officer in the Army National Guard in Afghanistan and Iraq, and as well as at Guantanamo Bay. He's worked at Fox News in various on-air roles since 2014. Quote, he was a pretty low-ranking guy in the military, and he never had a command position. He was a platoon leader, I think, once or twice, but he never even commanded a company. And so this is a man who is inordinately unqualified for the position. The Pentagon is 3 million servicemen and women and civilians. It is over a $900 billion budget. He's never run anything anywhere close to that size. Even Republican senators have spoken out anonymously against Hegseth's nomination, with one senator telling Rolling Stone that Trump's choice, quote, makes no sense. Duckworth additionally criticized Hegseth's vocal opposition to women serving in combat roles. Hegseth has said, I'm straight up saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated. Quote, he's wrong, Duckworth said of Hegseth. Our military could not go to war without the 220,000 plus women who serve in uniform. Women serving in our country does make us more effective, does make us more lethal. Duckworth was co-piloting a Black Hawk helicopter in 2004 in Iraq when it was shot down by an RPG. Duckworth was severely injured, losing her legs and partial use of her right arm. In addition to his terrible takes on women in combat, Hegseth wrote in his book that the Pentagon's social justice messaging and woke policies have harmed recruitment efforts. America's white sons and daughters are walking away from military service, and who can blame them, he wrote in his book. And then it goes on into the details about the allegations made against Pete Hegseth, which we've discussed in previous videos. This is what Duckworth had to say on the matter. Quote, it's frankly an insult and really troubling that Trump would nominate someone who has admitted he paid off a victim who has claimed rape allegations against him. This is not the kind of person you want to lead the Department of Defense. Duckworth also expressed worry that Republicans in the Senate are prepared to approve not just Hegseth, but Trump's other nominees. Quote, I'm deeply concerned that they will greenlight anyone Trump nominates. From what I'm hearing from my Republican colleagues on everything from defense secretary to other posts, it sounds like they're ready to roll over for Donald Trump. So that's where we are. I think it's very likely that Hegseth gets confirmed. It's possible that he doesn't. But again, as a betting proposition, the Republicans have given us nothing. Republican politicians have given us nothing, no reason whatsoever to believe that they are a meaningful check against Donald Trump's excesses. So none of us are psychic. Senator Duckworth isn't. I'm not. But if somebody's saying, no, don't worry about it, I think you need to give us a good reason as to why we shouldn't worry about it instead of just blind faith. This isn't religion. This is politics. And Republican senators and Republican Congress people have not been a meaningful bulwark against Trump in the past. I have no reason to believe that they would do so here. And if they have any, issues, or if they're rather making peace with his lack of experience and the allegations against him, perhaps they will consider an email from his own damn mother as another reason to not give this guy a position for which he is already unqualified. Food for thought. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.